I'm here with Vlad, the CEO of Robinhood, right at the end of their To Catch a Token Summit. Vlad, you guys launched so many things today. As this wraps up, share a little bit of your sentiment. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. I mean, I think that there was one technical glitch, which you probably noticed.
Oh, the slow connectivity? I thought that was easily overcomeable.
Yeah. So what happened was so many people were downloading the app and trying to get the stock tokens that it brought down the network. So, but it turned out everything worked. I thought the team did a nice job, and it was a lot of fun. You know, we put so much work into these products. The engineers are building them. They've been working for a long time that I think the least we can do is put on a nice event so that we can communicate the value as nicely as possible. So I think it was a lot of fun. It was, hopefully the crowd enjoyed it too.
You guys did a great job. Now, I had the embargo. You guys gave us the embargo, so I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Except for the private tokenized companies of SpaceX and OpenAI, which I think kind of stole the show for what everyone was excited about. And that's really something that Robinhood is really tapping into what feels like just the financial zeitgeist of our times. You know, with so much VC capital out there, companies are able to stay private later and later. This is something that we talked about last time you were on the show. Was this something that, because after you built out the tokenized stocks product offering, you were like, oh, we could easily just extend this to private companies? Or what was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so the thought process was twofold. I don't know if you've caught the op-ed that I wrote in the Washington Post earlier this year. And really, I've been thinking about tokenization for many, many years. And the benefits of tokenization is very, very clear that it's the future. And it's very useful for Europeans and folks outside the US. And then when you communicate the value of the technology inside the US, it's sort of like talking about high-speed rail when you already have medium-speed rail.
Right.
And by that, I mean, in the US, we already have pretty robust financial infrastructure. It's not amazing, but you know, we don't have 24/7. We have 24/5 trading of stocks. Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty easy to use. Robinhood, I think, has played a role in democratizing it and making it accessible to tens of millions of customers. So the delta between tokenization and the existing infrastructure for public stocks is there. I think it will happen, but it's perhaps a little bit less severe than outside the US. But one benefit that I think is very, very strong is the ability to make all kinds of assets tradable, even those that aren't on liquid exchanges. And private stocks are this thing that, you know, it's frankly a big problem. You have companies like SpaceX and OpenAI that are worth hundreds of billions. They're essentially able to raise unlimited amounts of capital while staying private. And if you're a retail investor, you're shut out from all of that appreciation. Even a high net worth investor has difficulty getting into some of these companies.
And interestingly enough, they're also the coolest companies that everyone wants access to.
Yeah, it concerns me quite a bit that AI, I believe, is going to be an incredibly transformative platform shift, probably bigger than we've had it before, bigger than mobile, maybe even bigger than the internet on relative terms. And yet it's not like the internet where you had the .coms and you could have exposure to all of these assets in the private markets. By and large, a lot of the innovation is in private companies that shut out retail. So if we can democratize it, make it available, you know, outside the US where there's clarity, but over time, bring this technology, which truly will allow 24/7 real-time trading of private companies to the US as well, I think that could resolve one of the greatest longstanding inequities in capital markets today.
So I'm imagining this rollout to Robinhood Retail. There can only be so many shares of OpenAI and SpaceX on the market. It is a private company. There are shares that do float, that do trade.
Correct.
But there can't be that many. I could imagine the hype behind this growing quite large. And then all of a sudden, there being a supply shortage of OpenAI or SpaceX shares to create a premium on the shares. Do you have enough of those shares to actually supply to the market that has the demand for them?
Well, this is just the beginning. And as I mentioned on the presentation, the OpenAI and the SpaceX shares right now are a gift to these users.
Right.
So we had, I want to say, 1 million OpenAI, 500,000 of SpaceX. So you're right.
Right.
The focus now is on making sure we can get them tradable 24/7. I think that'll be a big technology unlock, and we believe we have a path to do that. And then over the long run, we're going to open this up much bigger. So I think you should be able to, on a secondary basis, transact a huge number of private companies, large number of private companies, thousands. And then I think this could actually grow to a primary source of capital as well. So if you think about, OpenAI, SpaceX, companies of that nature, they have raised tens of billions in funding, maybe hundreds of billions. And so if retail can become a mechanism and a vector, not just for secondary transactions, but for entrepreneurs when they want to raise primary capital, even at early stages, I think that's super transformative for entrepreneurship. And people don't talk about that enough. I think that could lead to more startups and more entrepreneurship in the world by a very, very wide margin.
Yeah, certainly. There's something that the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange should really be taking a look at, which is that there's a possibility that OpenAI, SpaceX, say this tokenization vertical out of Robinhood really gets a lot of traction, the traction that I'm sure you want it to. If there is dominant liquidity for these assets that happen on chain and inside of crypto venues, and the companies can also raise money from retail investors or just from the private market world, even though it's trading publicly, there's perhaps just never a need for these private companies to actually do the traditional IPO and go on the public traditional markets, but they can go on the public blockchain markets. Is that a world that you're trying to foster?
Well, I think a lot of people ask about, alternatives to the traditional IPO process. I think we've already seen an alternative to the traditional IPO process, which is companies just staying private essentially forever. I mean, these companies have an alternative. They could just keep raising unlimited amounts of capital in the private markets, and in doing so, shut out retail potentially forever. I mean, you've had some founders say that they never plan to go public.
It's a burden.
Yeah. So I think the solution for that case is, I'm generally pro the IPO as a process. Of course, it's gotten very burdensome, but Robinhood became a public company in 2021. I think some people in the environment will just choose to not go public. And for that, we need to figure out how to unlock the private shares and make them available to retail as well.
Certainly. Now, there's a notion that capital begets capital, liquidity begets liquidity. And again, if these private companies start trading on crypto venues, you can see the dominant price discovery of these assets, the liquidity of these assets happen on chain or on Bitstamp for when it's weekends, and amongst those other things. And one of the big features of this is the 24/7, 365 markets that tokenization really enables for you. There have been some promises that the crypto industry, checks that we wrote as an industry back in 2011, 2013, everything is going to come on chain. We're going to tokenize the world, 24/7, 365 trading, include retail earlier and earlier in the process. And just there's a couple announcements here, the tokenized stocks, tokenized private companies, and 24/7, 365 trading of traditional assets all happening in this announcement. And so I'm getting this idea that, there's a few instances of Robinhood actually cashing that check that the crypto industry conceptually wrote in 2013. So it gets me excited. There's no real question here. Yeah. But there's a full circle coming here at this event.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting. So there has been a lot of talk and legitimately not a ton of action in the form of usable products that are compliant in like real jurisdictions. And I think the problem, the reason it's taken this long is you need to be incredibly strong at two things that are very, very different. One is there needs to be a certain amount of like regulatory know-how, working with regulators, TradFi muscle, I'll call it, that we've kind of, refined over 10 plus years of being regulated very, very, very heavily across multiple jurisdictions. We also have to understand these assets and these traditional assets that we have to tokenize. And we've built up a very, very scaled traditional financial services business while simultaneously becoming one of the largest players in retail crypto in the US, but now expanding outside. And so I don't think too many companies can bridge that gap of being very, very strong in TradFi and crypto. And I think that's what's needed to merge the two. And also just being sort of like more muscular from a regulatory standpoint, where you know we've worked hard over the past 10 years, and a lot of the policymakers and regulators that have helped make this happen are actually at this event tonight.
Right. Certainly, yeah. So one of the announcements that you guys had is perps, futures, perps for crypto assets. But once you have a tokenized stock, that also becomes a crypto asset. So down the line, is there on the roadmap perp futures, as you announced for crypto, but for tokenized stocks?
That's a good question. I think the intent is the technology that we've built here is incredibly general, and it can be used to power and tokenize pretty much anything. And actually, you know, private stocks and public stocks are quite different mechanically as assets. So, you know, we'll take customer demand. We'll probably have futures versions of crypto assets. I mean, we've listed a bunch of those in the US already with, you know, the micro XRP and ETH and Solana futures, which are sort of like TradFi instruments of crypto products. And then with tokenization, it's crypto instruments that reflect TradFi products. And we'll just offer
wherever the
everything that customers want in a, you know, safe and compliant manner. That's the goal.
The crypto idea is that perps are better than options. And so the crypto believer will say like, oh, well, if it's a head-to-head competition between perps and options, people are going to use perps every single time. It's more intuitive. It's more easy to think about. And so I would hope that as perps becomes more understood by the audience, the consumer base, that perps as a financial instrument would proliferate, you know, alongside the rise of tokenized equities, tokenized stocks. That's my attitude. I don't know if you have a comment on that or anything at all.
You know, I don't want to upset my my options
Your
friends
options people?
or my. I think they have their unique use cases.
Certainly.
I mean, there's certain scenarios where an options trade might make sense, and you know, you could put together a multi-leg strategy and benefit from sideways markets perhaps a little bit more easily than you could with a straight up perpetual future. You could have, you know, iron condors or butterflies. You know, these are things that our active traders are really experts in many cases. So, you know, if there's a demand for those products, we have the capability of adding them as well.
And with the access for the United States markets, which I'm sure, you know, plenty of United States viewers watching this and also watching the announcement, I'm sure just chomping at the bit to get their hands on perps on side of Robinhood or tokenized stocks on side of Robinhood. I know you guys are barred by the CFTC. You guys need the CFTC to give yourselves a thumbs up. Coinbase, I'm sure, is also waiting for that same regulatory green light to launch these tokenized stocks for their retail base. Are you in conversations with the CFTC? Are we at the beginning of this conversation? Kind of where are we for U.S. citizens getting their hands on these things?
Yeah, I mean, it's our belief that tokenized stocks in the U.S. will end up being governed by the SEC, regulated by the SEC.
Maybe that was the perpetuals conversation. Pardon me.
Yeah, the perpetuals would be governed by the CFTC. And when it comes to stocks, I think there's openness from the SEC, the crypto task force, who we have been having meetings with. You know, Johann, our crypto GM, was in Washington a couple of weeks ago on the tokenization roundtable, which was hosted by the crypto task force. And yeah, it's our belief actually that this can be done by the SEC alone without the need for additional rulemaking by Congress, and they seem open to it. I think in the U.S. in particular, we want to make sure any product we roll out is like fully compliant, and the regulators are on board every step along the way. In particular, because our offerings in the U.S. are so good already. I mean, we've got 24/5 trading of a huge universe of stocks. It's very easy to use with Robinhood. So, I mean, you would get weekends and holidays, which are nice, but we want to make sure that it's very, very good and an amazingly compliant product. And we think we can get there. We have the technology. We think we can get there relatively soon.
Certainly. So Robinhood has become a leading crypto platform for its retail user base, largely because you guys have so much distribution. Your crypto products previously have lagged other competitors, whereas like Coinbase has more assets on their platform. They had their wallet before Robinhood had the wallet. And so when Robinhood would release a product, it would generally be somewhere between 6 to 12 months behind a Coinbase product because Coinbase is crypto specific, it's crypto native. Robinhood, you have plenty of TradFi activity that you also need to maintain. But on this, what the announcements here today, some of them are products that Coinbase just announced just a few weeks ago. And with many of the on-chain stocks, that's actually leapfrogging Coinbase to kind of beat them to a punch on a number of the things. So is this Robinhood becoming a leading crypto native company? I know 30% of your revenue already comes from crypto. And so where do you think your relationship with crypto grows? Are you investing even further into this industry? Are you guys trying to go and take down Coinbase? What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'd say traditionally, you're right. Our approach to building products and rolling out features has sometimes been described as Apple-like in the sense that Apple really uses it. It's usually not the first to market, not like the bleeding edge innovator, but they sort of like focus on the user experience and the design and the product quality and make it very, very accessible. And I think that's been a good analogy. I mean, I think when you bring up the wallet as an example, like our wallet wasn't the first to market, but I think it was the first to market in an intuitive way that rolled out features like gasless swapping, which I think if you're a retail user and you expect this technology to go mass market, like thinking through the gas and the fees in a different currency is just very, very confusing. So we felt like gasless swapping was important, and I think we were actually one of the first to enable that. But you're also right that, now we're kind of pushing the frontier, and I think we are the first big platform, or at least among the first, to roll out these tokenized offerings. And with the private company stock tokens definitely on the bleeding edge. So it's a new place for us to be in. We're usually used to, coming in later into a market, taking share through just like price competition, efficiency, sort of a war of attrition, and now being first, but bringing that capability of lower pricing, great technology. It's fun. So we'll see how it goes.
Last question, Vlad, and I know you have to hop to another interview. The layer 2, the Robinhood chain.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what the long-term relationship is between the Robinhood app and the Robinhood chain. And I think, listeners and myself, our frames of knowledge are going to come from the relationship between Coinbase and Base, where Base is actually a pretty big universe in of itself. And then Coinbase also uses Base to get Bitcoin backed loans, and they offer that straight through the front end. Is this kind of something that you're trying to do similarly with Robinhood, where it's a developer ecosystem, developers can build permissionlessly on the Robinhood chain, or are you more using it just to settle back-end logic for your own needs and your own simplicity? How do you think about the long-term relationship between Robinhood and its own layer 2?
Yeah, and by the way, I think the team over at Base, it's a good team. I think they've done a very, very nice job. And they're pushing the sort of like Base is for everyone campaign, which I think has been relatively effective. I think our niche in this space is it's maybe not going to be useful for everyone in every use case, but what we intend to do is make it the best chain for real world assets. I think real world assets have very specific needs and qualities, and making this the best chain for real world assets, starting with stocks, going into private company shares. We mentioned real estate and art, and those things are very, very interesting to me as well. And combining that with the lowest possible fees and really, I like to call it, we're trying to build like military grade robustness. I think that's going to be exciting. And I do think that that's going to be an interesting proposition that should attract some developers. We talk to a lot of folks building chains, and the value prop that I hear a lot of is, this is the number one chain for degens.
Sure, yeah.
I probably met like 7 or 8 degen chain builders, and we're trying to go in the opposite direction. We want it to be the number one chain for real world assets, and for it to sort of confer fundamental utility to all participants.
Cool. Well, Vlad, like I say, I'm excited for what you guys have announced. I'm pretty optimistic for what you guys can do, and it's nice to see another big company helping the world move on chain. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for joining us here and helping be part of the journey.
I do have to ask, last time we had you on the show, we talked about tokenization of equities, and you talked about the private markets and all that. And I wrote this article on Bankless the next day saying Vlad wants to tokenize SpaceX and OpenAI.
Yes.
So these plans have been in the works for a while, or when did that idea come about?
Let's see. Well, I talked about SpaceX and OpenAI in the op-ed. And what I found is if you write about stuff often enough, sometimes it ends up happening. So
you manifested it.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And of course, it's really nice to see that a lot of competitors have been like jumping on and trying to do this stuff too, which I think would be good. I think I'm here for the future when everything is on chain and we move beyond Bitcoin and meme coins into a place where crypto is actually very, very useful and it confers fundamental utility to participants. And I think that's going to be exciting. And the time has come. I think it's this year.
Vlad, congrats and thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. In the Wild West of DeFi, stability and innovation are everything, which is why you should check out Frax Finance, the protocol revolutionizing stablecoins, DeFi, and rollups. The core of Frax Finance is Frax USD, which is backed by BlackRock's institutional BUIDL fund. Frax designed Frax USD for best-in-class yields across DeFi, T-bills, and carry trade returns all in one. Just head to Frax.com, then stake it to earn some of the best yields in DeFi. Want even more? Bridge your Frax USD over to the Fraxtal Layer 2 for the same yield plus Fraxtal points, and explore Fractal's diverse Layer 2 ecosystem with protocols like Curve, Convex, and more, all rewarding early adopters. Frax isn't just a protocol, it's a digital nation, powered by the FXS token and governed by its global community. Acquire FXS through Frax.com or your go-to DEX, stake it, and help shape Frax Nation's future. Ready to join the forefront of DeFi? Visit Frax.com now to start earning with Frax USD and staked Frax USD. And for Bankless listeners, you can use Frax.com/r/Bankless when bridging to Fraxtal for exclusive Fraxtal perks and boosted rewards. Imagine if your checking account and DeFi wallet finally spoke the same language. That's Mantle Banking, an all-in-one fiat and crypto account. It lets you save, spend, and invest all from one dashboard. Swipe for coffee, stake METH for yield, or even use virtual cards for payments through Apple Pay. So it feels Web 2 simple, yet stays Web 3 sovereign. For allocators, meet Mantle Index 4, the S&P 500 of crypto. A tokenized, institutional-grade fund seeded with $400 million from the Mantle Treasury and balanced across Bitcoin, Ether, Sol, and yield-enhanced stables. One asset, broad exposure, pure DeFi composability. The momentum is real. METH vaults, FBTC bridges, and a $2.4 billion community treasury are all powering the next phase of on-chain finance. Mantle brings real-world access, yield, and utility to digital assets. Ready for the next era of on-chain finance that actually belongs in 2025? Explore Mantle at mantle.xyz or follow Mantle_official. Mantle, bridging TradFi and DeFi so you don't have to. I'm here with Johann, the GM of crypto at Robinhood. Johann, people are familiar with Vlad, the CEO. I think people are a little bit less familiar with Johann. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your role in the whole Robinhood universe?
Yeah, so I lead the crypto business at Robinhood. So everything that is related to crypto usually goes around my team. And, you know, we are really excited to have launched all these products today. I initially joined Robinhood a bit more than 4 years ago as a CTO for the crypto group. And I've been running the business for a few years now.
And so all of the big decisions that happen in the crypto universe of Robinhood, the Bitstamp acquisition, the Robinhood wallet, all of this is under your oversight.
Yeah, that would be right. So my team and I, you know, we work very hard on all this announcement and this project and this acquisition. And so we're really excited to see, you know, the enthusiasm from people here.
So the acquisition of Bitstamp was a pretty big deal. Before that, there was the Robinhood wallet. Before that, there was just, you know, you could buy select crypto assets on Robinhood. There's been certainly a crescendoing of activity on the crypto side of things from Robinhood. Just talk a little bit about Robinhood's long arc with crypto. It seems to be growing. It seems to be like crescendoing in excitement. Talk about that arc and where we are today.
Yeah, so, you know, we launched crypto in 2018, to your point, with just a few assets. And then we started to add more assets. We started to add functionality like transferring, the Robinhood wallet, which was our self-custody wallet. And slowly we, you know, really build on this vision that crypto and blockchain technology can be the backbone of the financial system of tomorrow. And really what this event is about is how will we rebuild Robinhood using blockchain technology? And, you know, in the EU, we're actually almost all in blockchain technology. So now EU customers can actually trade crypto, stake crypto, but they can also do perpetual on 2 assets. And they can also do stock tokens to get exposure to US stocks and ETF. And so I think that's what's really exciting for me. I joined Robinhood because I wanted to bring this mass adoption and stop talking just about the technical and the protocols and actually giving tools that people can use every day and use blockchain.
So Perps is one of the big announcements that you guys had today. And Perps is a financial instrument that was created in the crypto universe, but isn't inherently crypto by any means. It's just a neutral financial instrument. In theory, that could have gone into the regular Robinhood app for regular tokenized or non-tokenized assets, normal equities. But instead, it is first being primarily introduced in the crypto context, of which it's native. So that's under your domain. Talk about that choice to keep it inside of the crypto context when it could have also been applied to like more normal financial instruments in the rest of Robinhood.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there is a few issues on, the CFTC side. And for example, perps are not necessarily something that exists in the US today. You can do like long dated contracts, but it's not something that really is a perpetual that roll over indefinitely. And so in the EU, we received our license, our MiFID license and our MiCA license. So we're able to actually bring perpetuals. And it's something that is really exciting because a lot of what we were saying on stage was about how complicated it is to use perps on different platforms. And you can very hardly do it on a phone. You always have to update your take profit, your stop loss. You want to make sure that, you're not going to lose too much money or take too much risk. And so you're always having to kind of stay at a desktop to use it. And so what we wanted to build on Robinhood was really an interface that you can use on a on-to-go basis, basically, and just with a swipe of a finger, being able to update your position and your strategy and make sure that you don't take too many risks.
Do you see the Perps instrument spreading further and more integrated into the rest of Robinhood, or is it kind of you'll follow the demand, we'll see how it is adopted? How do you see it expanding?
Yeah, I think, there is 2 aspects for the Perps. There is the retail, there is also the institutional aspect. So the backend that we're using for Perps is Bitstamp, and that exchange is actually open to institutions. So we expect to see institution also coming to that. But we also announced stock tokens today that are like token that gives you exposure to US stocks, US ETF. In a world where you have crypto tokens and perps combined together, you could see a world where you can, have perps on tokenized asset, basically.
Let's talk about the chain, because I think that's one of the most exciting announcements that we've seen out of today. But there was also a choice that was made. I believe I'm fuzzy on the details, but I understand that there was also a potential deal, some sort of deal with Solana about some interest in working with Solana. Maybe that deal is still open. I don't know. But what we heard from today out of Robinhood was the launch of a layer 2 on the Arbitrum Orbit tech stack. So talk to us about that choice, that strategy. Why was that the right strategy for Robinhood?
Well, there was a few things. We talked to a lot of chains. So, when the rumor started, it was just about the fact that we were talking to chains. And for us, we wanted to understand, do we want to use an existing permissionless chain, or do we want to build something that is custom for us? And really, when we started to look at the complexity of what we are trying to build and all the ambition that we have around stock tokens and bringing the financial system on chain, we felt like having our chain was giving us a lot more optionality. We are able to build the right regulatory requirements on the chain, and also making sure that it can scale with us. And why Arbitrum? For us, there was a few things. We really like the fact that the way that you can use Stylus, which is a system that basically allows you to use any kind of code, so you don't have to be stuck with one as a type of code, but you can actually bring like Rust, C++, whatever you want. And so that's very helpful if you're thinking about the long term and the type of products that we want to build. The second thing that we liked was the priority queue system that is non-predatory. And also, we have been a good partner with Arbitrum for a long time. We've partnered a few times on the wallet. And we overall expect to be a good partner with every chain. So you mentioned Solana. We offer, for example, no fees on the wallet on Solana if you're a gold customer. We also offer staking on Solana on multiple platforms. So we want to be good partners with everybody.
Okay, so just to trace over what I heard you say, the main reason why the Arbitrum Layer 2 was selected was, 1, the customizability, and also 2, the reading between the lines, the MEV control. As in, if you guys run the sequencer, MEV is a very legally dubious topic. And if you outsource that to external parties, then all of a sudden there's a little bit, outside of your control. So if you have a single sequencer, which I would imagine Robinhood is going to run, you guys just can make sure that there is no things like front running, back running, things that would otherwise be illegal in a traditional context because you guys are operating the chain. So customizability and control, is that kind of the two key features here?
Yeah, some of the feature. You know, there was also the interoperability between multiple ecosystem, Ethereum being a big one. There's many on EVM. So we were really excited about that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the idea of having just one sequencer is not necessarily true. Like, I think at some point we'll want to bring decentralization, and I think using the Arbitrum stack is helpful for that. But I think you're right. We want to make sure that we can control the products that we are going to launch at the beginning, but also build tools that are kind of the platform for everyone else to build on top of it and use the technology that we are creating today.
Listening into that interoperability word, if you say that you are interested in interoperability right after you talk about an announcement of tokenized stocks, I get images of these tokenized stocks moving beyond Robinhood chain. Is that an explicit part of the plan? Talk about that future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, the idea of tokenized asset has been that we are removing them from the walled garden. And so you can transfer them between broker, you can do a lot more things with it. Maybe, you can use all the things that you're thinking about DeFi and assets. And so for us, we know that, people want to move to a different chain or they want to move to a different platform. And I think it's part of the DNA. But if we want that product to be really successful, we don't want to recreate another traditional finance system. So definitely.
So are the stock tokens, are they whitelisted, or what are the transferability conditions that are built into the token contract of the Robinhood stock tokens?
Yeah, so right now what we announced today for the launch, we are going to just allow it within the Robinhood app, and we are going to open self-custody pretty soon. You saw it during the demo. We tried to transfer from our self-custody wallet to the Robinhood app. And so we are kind of ready to go. We just want to make sure that, the product is working well before we open the gate.
Okay, so is there a whitelist contract? As in, if I say I have a Robinhood account or an Arbitrum wallet, and I send my equity tokens to my wallet, can I send it to a friend who has another Arbitrum wallet, or would they have to also be a part of the Robinhood KYC universe?
Yeah, in the future, we would want everyone to be able to transfer between each other. I think where, the mint and burning will be where you will need to be either a Robinhood customer, or you will be have to be a customer of somebody that is compatible with our stack.
Okay, cool. It makes sense that you guys have chosen Arbitrum. I was talking to AJ about this because Arbitrum is so inherently DeFi focused. So, it's one thing to be able to buy and hold tokenized equities, private companies especially, but it's another thing to be able to compose those into a broader DeFi ecosystem, which Arbitrum definitely has. And so, are you envisioning a world where there's an Aave implementation on the Arbitrum layer 2, or there's a Uniswap? So can you see these tokens being interoperable with the existing DeFi Arbitrum ecosystem?
I mean, that's a goal. I think we want in the future to be able to do all of this. I think it's going to be hard for me to tell you, is it going to be a Aave? Is it going to be a Morpho or something else? But we want to make it compatible. And that's why we picked kind of an EVM-based solution for our layer. Otherwise, we could have done our own layer 1, or we could have kept it on a non-permissionless chain. It would have been a lot faster and easier.
So, but there's also nothing inherently stopping you guys from issuing these tokens on Solana in the future, right? If there's demand there, could you also see yourselves tokenize these across many chains?
I think bridging is going to be part of the strategy. And overall, I think, again, we want everyone to be able to use it. And so for that, I think you need to be able to give access to everybody. And you won't be able to do that if you limit yourself to just one chain.
So when I was listening to Vlad talk about with the whiteboard session, he talked about all the different components of the Robinhood world, especially as it came to issuing these tokens, and then also having them trade on Bitstamp when the very constrained traditional markets are only alive so many hours of the week. But now Bitstamp can trade them 24/7, and then you also have the Robinhood wallet as well. There's a very tightly integrated ecosystem of components that are being woven together there. Was that your mastermind? Is that your strategy?
Well, I don't know about that. I think, we have a very big team with a lot of talented people. So But I think for us, that was kind of the idea. The exchange, when we acquired Bitstamp, was this idea of not being only reliant on market maker, but being able to support some of the new products we are thinking of, like tokenized assets. And the Robinhood wallet is also something that, 4 years ago when we were starting to build it, the idea was really to think about the DeFi world and think about the fact that at some point people may not want to use centralized platform. And so it's great to see everything going together. And we hope to keep going like this. And there is a lot more plans that we have shared also on the pirate stock, for example, that is going to really get together nicely in this ecosystem.
Spawning a brand new chain is a pretty big undertaking. It's one thing to use your own chain to deploy your own assets and to do the back end things that Robinhood needs to do, which I think we're all very happy about. That's what blockchains are for. That's one of the big bull cases. But there's also the conversation of, well, the Robinhood chain is also going to be permissionless as well for developers and users. So that means that any old developer can come and do things on Robinhood chain. Is that a specific vertical that you are trying to foster?
Yeah, we are really excited about that. I think, we call all the developers that want to be working on the Hood chain, that want to talk to Robinhood about this. Like, it's something that we want to do, and we think that will happen. For us, it's the big long-term vision is that everybody can use these stock tokens, everybody can build on it, and you can see more type of real-world assets. And so for that, we will need a lot of developers because as, important Robinhood is, and with a great team that we have, we can build the entire DeFi world. There's so many things being innovating every day. And so we think that it's all coming together.
So Robinhood, about 30% of Robinhood revenue comes from crypto products, which I think if you told that to the average Robinhood shareholder or just the average person in traditional finance, they might be shocked about how high that number is. Where do you see the trend of that number going? Because Robinhood also has a bunch of TradFi products. They just launched Robinhood Banking. They just launched Robinhood Strategies. So it's not like neglecting by any means its TradFi side, but also some of these announcements are pretty amazing. So where do you see this 30% crypto revenue going in Robinhood? Do you see that increasing, staying the same?
I think it's hard to say. Like, if you think about last year, we had so many great products on Robinhood, not just on the crypto side, but, event contract, futures, like so many new things. And so I think it's just the business as a whole has been growing. And so that's been what's really exciting. But I think for us, what we've been mostly focused on is less about the share internally of what is Robinhood crypto doing versus the other businesses, but more like what market share we're able to get outside of Robinhood. And we've been able to grow our market share nicely in the past few quarters. And I think that's really a good signal that we are building what our customers are really excited about.
Let's fast forward 5 years, 10 years, and everything that you want about on the crypto side of Robinhood comes true. Paint us a picture of what that looks like. You have the Robinhood app, you have the Robinhood chain, you have the Bitstamp exchange, you have these tokenized equities, tokenized private companies. There's a good number of puzzle pieces here. When all of these puzzle pieces that we know of come together, and maybe some additional ones that we don't know of, what does that picture look like?
Well, I think, for us, we've been not really keeping a lot of secrets. Like, we want to make Robinhood available everywhere in the world. So that's one big thing. We have a wallet that is available in a lot of countries, but we also want to bring the entire Robinhood stack, like stocks and futures, options, all these things. And the next thing also will be like, we want a lot more of the traditional system to be on chain. So ideally for me, in a few years, is you use the same Robinhood as you are using today as a US customer. And most of it is using on chain. It's a lot faster. It's instant. It's 24/7. And you don't even know it because you don't need to know all the details about the protocol.
Do you think you guys can dethrone the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange as the centerpiece of liquidity in the future?
Well, I think, it's going to be interesting to see how the market responds to this type of asset that are being tokenized. But it is going to create a lot of opportunity, like, during weekends, off market hours, all these things, like you will start to see a lot more people trading these assets.
Will there be a token for the Robinhood chain?
Currently nothing to announce there. I think, right now for us, the focus is to launch some of these new products and see how people are using it. And then we'll share more detail on that later.
Johann, you've gotten a lot of people excited today, including myself. So thank you for all the hard work that you've been putting in. And I think we'll be watching Robinhood with pretty good interest.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers. Binance is the world's #1 crypto exchange. Over 275 million users already trust their world-class security. Binance makes starting crypto as simple as it should be, whether it's learning about crypto on Binance Academy or browsing hundreds of assets and viewing your newly created portfolio in a clear, easy-to-track dashboard. Binance helps you go at your own pace. For hardcore traders, Binance Pro opens up industry-leading services for trading professionals with fully bespoke trading products, along with a suite of white-glove services for VIP and institutional clients. Need support? 24/7 customer service is on hand whenever you need it. And with some of the lowest fees and deepest liquidity in the market, it's no surprise why over 275 million users trust Binance for everything crypto. Download Binance today and get started in minutes. Binance is not available in certain countries, including the United States. Check its terms for more information. Uniswap is your gateway to a more efficient DeFi experience. With Uniswap, swapping and bridging across 13 chains is simple, fast, and cost-effective, helping you move value wherever, whenever. Thanks to deep liquidity on the Uniswap protocol, you'll enjoy minimal price impact on every trade. And now Uniswap v4 takes it even further. Swappers benefit from gas savings on multi-hop swaps and ETH trading pairs, while liquidity providers can create new pools at 99% lower costs. The best part, you don't have to do anything extra. Each trade is automatically routed through Uniswap X, V2, V3, and V4, so you get the most efficient swap without even thinking about it. Whether you're swapping, sending, on-ramping, off-ramping, or bridging, Uniswap's web app and wallet gives you the tools to unlock DeFi's full potential on Ethereum, Base, Arbitrum, Unichain, and more. Use Uniswap's web app and wallet for a more efficient way to use DeFi. We're here with AJ from Arbitrum. It's a big day for Arbitrum. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really exciting. I'm really excited to be partnering with Robinhood on this. I'm really excited about their vision, particularly about sort of reconstructing their platform for their users with crypto rails. And yeah, it's an incredible day. I'm sure we'll get into it, but yeah, it feels kind of surreal in the moment.
The Arbitrum Robinhood partnership goes back pretty far, like 2+ years. I don't know what the partnership looks like way back when maybe it was just an initial deal, but it's certainly crescendoed over the years to where we are today, where we are seeing Robinhood do something very innovative, which is launch stocks that are not trading on Arbitrum with our little Arbitrum logo right there. Talk about the crescendoing of the Robinhood Arbitrum relationship.
Yeah, no, it's been really cool. So I remember, I think it was ETH Denver 2024. We announced sort of like the beginning of our partnership together. And it started with like a really simple, like Robinhood's going to support Arbitrum in their crypto wallet, easy access for users to trade on DEXs, and sort of do other activities through that wallet experience. But we sort of started like laying the building blocks for a deeper, close relationship. Our teams got close. Joe and I in particular, sort of fostered a great working relationship. And our thesis with them has always been like, be good partners. For us, we don't have this vision that crypto needs to be at the forefront or that Arbitrum needs to be at the forefront. We're a powerful technology that can power user experiences. And for us, Robinhood sort of, and its place in fintech was always the best partner. So we developed this relationship and obviously crescendoed into where we're at today. But the same like elements and thematic components of these guys are the best at building user experiences. And we want our technology to be able to be flexible enough to be supportive of their vision to make their users happy.
So I would imagine that there is not one long-standing Arbitrum Robinhood deal. There's one deal at a time, and every single new thing that you guys do together has to be done on, is this right for both of us? Do we like working together? So every single deal has to be one, right?
Yeah, I think in many ways, like, I think one of the core things that's really important for businesses that are moving as quickly as sort of both our business and their business is like flexibility to make sure that the products are right. Like, for example, today they announced like Solana staking as well. And that's a great thing for their business. They're bringing that utility to their users. I would say tokenized stocks was always like the main prize that we were after, right? Obviously, I joined crypto in 2014. And for me, it was about ownership, sovereignty, and democratizing access. And there's nothing that does that more than just the tokenized access to everything. And as Vlad mentioned in phase 3, the goal is for that to be, self-custody, do with it what you want. And like that vision is incredible. So that was always, I would say, like the North Star of what we were hoping to collaborate on. And obviously that's where we're at today. And we're starting with them on Arbitrum 1. So like today, for example, the demos that they did, those assets are all minting and burning on Arbitrum 1 in trading. Eventually, they're going to be transitioning to the Robinhood chain, which the Arbitrum Orbit stack is going to power. And I think that's one of the really cool things, and one of the things that excited them about Arbitrum is the flexibility of what we can offer as a platform, right? We have Arbitrum One as a core economic hub of, crypto and financial activity, and also the ability for them to take a stack and own it, own the customizations of it, whatever they want to do with it. And our team's going to be, a strong partner in product design for what is the best product for their users. And there's a lot of reasons why people talk about wanting their own chain, but the ability for them to continue to compound their users on the Robinhood chain is going to be a very powerful thing as they build their entire company again on crypto rails. So again, like that flexibility of what Arbitrum can offer, I think is something that was a key component of this, because the Arbitrum platform offers the flexibility that they might need in order to continue to build their business on chain.
Now, I think people are pretty familiar with the deal structure of Base and the Optimism Collective. It's something like 15% of Base sequencer fees or 2.5% of total profit, whichever one's greater, goes to the Optimism Collective. Yeah. And that's kind of the deal of the Optimism Collective. Then that's kind of set the standard for the OP stack ecosystem. Yeah. If you are willing to share, what are the economics of the Robinhood chain and Arbitrum?
Arbitrum has a similar model with the DAO. It's a little bit different, but it's similar in the sense that if you want to launch an L2, which is what Robinhood is choosing to do, then you do a 10% profit share as well with the Arbitrum DAO. So it's a very similar model. I would say the differences in model are maybe some of the philosophical differences between Superchain and Orbit. So Superchain, you kind of have to opt into like a shared governance model with interoperability. With Orbit, it's, just sort of contribute back into the Arbitrum DAO on the profit share through what we call the AEP, and then do whatever you want with it. Right. We expect there to be interoperability, but it's almost like an orthogonal product question to use of the stack. And because we're not sort of locked in on Orbit into specific interoperability and governance mechanisms, we can have a lot more flexibility in design of the stack. So that's why you sometimes see Arbitrum, like you see L3s, you see L2s, you see custom gas tokens, you see all these different changes because the Orbit stack provides a lot more flexibility. And that was something that was like really important to Robinhood on this journey, was to make sure that they had that flexibility with the stack to own it. So like they don't have to opt into shared governance or interoperability. They can if they want to. My suspicion is they won't prefer to, but that's how the Orbit stack structure works.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool to see the Arbitrum logo right next to the OpenAI. Transfer 1 million shares of OpenAI in the Robinhood app that everyone's familiar with, and you see the little Arbitrum logo. Yeah, as you alluded to, and as they said, it starts on Arbitrum 1. It'll migrate over to the Robinhood chain when that thing is up and running. Yeah, but also at the same time, Arbitrum 1 already has fantastic DeFi infrastructure, which the Robinhood chain will have to start from scratch on. I don't know if they're going to leave the option to do tokenized stocks on Robinhood Arbitrum 1 persistently. Will that always be an option?
So it's a great question. It's really going to be up to them. Okay. I mean, the reason to do it is it's another environment where they can sort of integrate. They'll already have been integrated, so they don't have to like uproot some of the existing established relationships that they might have on Arbitrum 1. The reason not to do it is fragmentation potentially of liquidity. So that's probably going to be a key product question that we're going to work on with their team over time. But, like I said, Arbitrum 1 has a really robust DeFi ecosystem. I'm sure a lot of our builders are going to want to work with them on the Robinhood chain as well, which is great and something that, again, we encourage and support. I think that's probably we don't know yet. We'll figure that out. Sort of remember, on phase 1, these assets aren't integrated yet into DeFi, right? So it's still more of a self-contained box. So today, if they migrated, they wouldn't have some of these sort of liquidity fragmentation concerns. It would probably just be some sort of mint and burn mechanism, but it probably depends on how mature and engrossed or if there's demand for it.
Sure. You could just imagine that there's a ton of potential TVL up for grabs. Yes. And if there's some inherent interoperability inside of the Arbitrum stack, maybe, I don't know, I can take my Robinhood tokenized stock and take it into GMX or Aave onside of Arbitrum 1. But that would necessitate transferability of these tokens. Now, you are not on the Robinhood team, so I don't know if you're privy to these details of the transferability of the Robinhood stock tokens. Do you know anything there?
I don't want to speak for them. I think what Vlad was referring to is in the later phases that isn't very much their intention. They want self-sovereignty. So for example, when you saw Vlad do that live demo transfer, that was self-custody, right? That was not in the contained environment. Like he linked out to Arbiscan, he sent it to somebody else's wallet. So the infrastructure is already there, as they clearly showed. And I think what they're going to be planning on is, I think, figuring out the rollout. Like this is an extremely ambitious thing that they did today. Like, I think they made more announcements today than you typically see from companies in like a 2 or 3 year timeline. Like really incredible across so many different components. But I think, like, again, and this is sort of goes back to what I was saying about like what I really find so exciting about this. They're really focused on crypto rails for their existing user base. And they're going to focus on the product that will make sense for that user experience. Like when they were talking about the perps, they said, you can do this in like 2 or 3 taps of the finger. And like, that's why I love working with this team. Where instead of saying, how do we get crypto users to do more stuff on chain? It's how do we get more people who are regular financial traders to be actually just using crypto rails? And again, I think Robinhood is best positioned to be able to do that. And we're extremely excited to work so closely with them.
I think when people are digesting this news, they're just going to see the take that Robinhood has a chain now, and they're going to look at the correlates between Robinhood and Coinbase and be like, oh, Robinhood has their equivalent of Base. And people are also going to look towards Arbitrum as well and compare that to Optimism and the OP stack. It's like, oh, Arbitrum has its equivalent of Base now with Robinhood. But maybe you could also kind of continue that conversation and get into the nuances of the difference. How is it the same and how is it different?
Yeah, so I think it's I think it's the same, obviously, in that like we have a huge user base that's using the stack sort of exogenous to the sort of DAO governed chain. And the reality is that as we see like WorldCoin, Athena and Securitize are building Converge, also using the Arbitrum Orbit stack. There's plenty of demand for people to have their own chains. And that's really one of Ethereum's killer features is the flexibility and customization for that to happen. I think that there's 2 distinctions, I would say, sort of between the Arbitrum Robinhood relationship is like Robinhood, they have crypto users, but their core user base is not crypto. So the overlap between maybe, Arbitrum 1 users and the people who are going to be the first users of the Robinhood chain are definitionally probably going to be different. There's, of course, going to be on-chain activity happening from crypto natives on the Robinhood chain as well, I'm sure, but it's an additive user base. The second difference is, I think especially with the expansion of time, like I think Coinbase and Optimism was probably a couple of years ago, Arbitrum 1 is very entrenched as, I would argue the most credibly neutral, liquid, L2, right? Obviously, Coinbase and Base is huge. Arbitrum 1 and Coinbase are probably neck and neck in terms of different metrics. But Arbitrum 1 has a very strong home if you're looking for a credibly neutral environment. And again, the way we've designed the Arbitrum path is if you want to launch an Arbitrum 1 and migrate to your own chain, it's seamless, right? That's what we're doing with Robinhood. That's what we're sort of pioneering. And I expect that journey to continue to happen for more people. Launch an Arbitrum 1, have a great experience, expand your user base, build yourself a mandate to be able to have your own chain, your own user base, and we're going to help work with you through that migration. So that's probably a little bit of the difference, but it's maybe a little more nuanced than some people might appreciate.
I think this is going to keep people's attention focused on what exactly Robinhood is going to do on-chain. How fast will the tokenized stocks come on-chain? How fast will they spin up their own chain? What does Arbitrum growth look like, downstream of all of this? How does Arbitrum keep this momentum going? What do you guys have next in the chamber to fire?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's hard to beat this one. But I think that for us, we've had a very, very specific focus and thesis, which is we want to make sure our product can best serve our user base. And that user base is very broad, right? Like if you look at Arbitrum's probably most known for DeFi, both on Arbitrum 1 and also a lot of the chains that are launching using the stack. But also basically every gaming chain, for example, that launches uses Arbitrum 1. And the reason for that is because like we've had really fast block times. Some might want to use Stylus because they might want to bring in traditional gaming libraries. So our goal is still like find use cases that we have conviction in. And, I would say the highest conviction today is probably this merge of TradFi and DeFi into what Steven, our CEO, likes to just say, finance. Like in 10 years, we're all just going to call it finance. That's probably our strongest focus right now, both on Arbitrum 1 and also across supporting ecosystems that want to launch their own chain and just finding more use cases, right? We're very focused on, traditional RWAs, lending, capital markets. I would say Arbitrum doesn't do as well in the meme coin craze as other ecosystems. And, every ecosystem sort of has their different communities and cultures, but this has kind of been always our focus. And during the DeFi bear days, we probably went down with it. But, you know, as this is all coming back, I think Arbitrum's, the excitement, the euphoria for the ecosystem is coming back with it.
Yeah, I do like that sentiment of like, you know, the OP mainnet are the governance philosophers and the base chain are like consumer crypto and crypto culture. And like Arbitrum has always been DeFi and execution optimized. And so it makes sense that that's what Robinhood chooses because that's what their core product offering is. There's been a strong alignment between those two brands.
Yeah, 100%. I think that people like to say like crypto and like TradFi or fintech are that different. I don't think they are. I think there's a lot of cultural similarities, a lot of cultural elements, and it really all comes down to relationships, teams, and obviously product. And yeah, we've been, I think, very focused. I think we've had a very product focused. I remember, you know, everyone talks about fast block times now. It's like the new hot thing.
Right.
Arbitrum had sub 250 millisecond block times since 2021, right? And like for us, that was something we identified really early as going to be a critical thing to expand use cases. And that's why Arbitrum did so well with perps as they sort of expanded off of Ethereum mainnet with, you know, GMX, Vertex, and others. And I think Stylus, which is not as popular today, is going to be that sort of next unlock. Just so in case your listeners aren't aware, Arbitrum's an EVM compatible chain, but Stylus now enables you to launch contracts in Rust, C, C++, fully interoperable. So we're seeing a lot of teams now that like, you know, fintech is meeting crypto, privacy and privacy layers are really important on top of this. And Stylus enables you to have like privacy optimized because you can just pull in cryptographic libraries like super cheap, right? So we try and stay ahead of the ball in terms of what we think are the features that our users and developers are going to want and execute on that thesis.
I do see privacy becoming a increasingly important and discussed. It's starting to crescendo as a topic, especially as TradFi comes on and realizes like, oh no, all of my assets are totally transparent to everyone. And so it's good to see that there is a potential path for lots of the Arbitrum stack to also access some of the privacy that we so desperately need.
100%. We have like, for example, there's a team like when they launched on day one with Stylus called Renegade Finance, and it's essentially on-chain dark pools, and it's the coolest thing. And I think they have like more than 30 ZK proofs generated on each transaction. And again, they're doing it on Arbitrum. It's a super cheap transaction because again, they're utilizing Stylus. So we extended the EVM. We recognized early the EVM is the huge mode of the Ethereum ecosystem, but we can do more. And that's like what the flexibility of L2s offers without compromising on the EVM. And we thought that, you know, Stylus is a great combination there.
Cool. AJ, congratulations. It's been a very big day. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers.